Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Monday night. It is no longer Monday Night Football, so I thank all of you who are actually tuning in live that have not been for the last 17 weeks, 18 weeks, however long they do Monday Night Football.
What are you talking about? What's
there? Look out there, MJ. There's Philip, and there's Stephanie, and there's Joey, and there's Bobby, and there's Mel. They're all out there.
So you mean they play football some other time of the week than Sunday?
Yeah. And like there are some people that watch our show late because they want to watch the football live.
That's just stupid.
I know they could record the football. I mean, seriously.
Or just open up their phone and go, okay, my favorite team won, and that's it. You don't have to worry about anything else.
Obviously, you're not a Minnesota Vikings fan because we seldom say that. My favorite team, well, they're the Vikings.
I'm just looking. I was upset over the weekend because there was 3 things that had to happen for the Steelers to be in the playoffs, and I was hoping that at least one of those 3 would not happen. But freaking all 3 of them happened, and their playoffs, so games are still going on. I got to deal with at least one more game.
At least they're not home, so you don't have to worry about like traffic from that.
No. You understand Pittsburgh. There are 2 seasons in Pittsburgh: football season and talk about football season. So. Whether it's at home or not, there's just as much traffic out there because everybody. It's. What do you mean you're not going to the bar to watch the game? What do you mean you're not going over to so and so's house to watch the game? No, I mean I'm not going to watch the game.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'd feel for you, but when you live where I do, the chanting that goes back and forth.
Yeah, you got the 2 sides.
Because we get the Phillies and the Eagles, and then we've got the Steelers, and so you're sitting there and then of course when it's a bar, of course there's been alcohol, so it only makes it even worse. It's interesting. Yeah, but anyway, that's not what we're talking about tonight.
No, thank goodness.
No, because MJ would be lost in 50 seconds.
No, maybe. I played a buttload of sports growing up, so I understand it. I love playing it, but I just don't. I even motocross. I love racing the motorcycles, but I just don't get into watching sports. Because when I watch it, all I want to do is go play. And nobody plays anymore. All my friends are old. And I had a friend hurt his ankle on a stationary bike a while back.
Well, MJ, next time we get together, we'll play catch. There you go.
Oh, baseball. You hit the bottom rung.
You can catch with the football.
Football's okay. Yeah. I thought you meant baseball.
Say baseball. I just said we're going to play catch because it's just you and I. We're not playing football. They're just the 2 of us.
Oh, wow. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let me tackle. Boom!
out in the sand and on the beach in Atlantic City. It'll be great.
I'm scared.
What are those 2 old guys laying out in the sand for? Well, you see, they were going to play football, and they got tired really.
Oxygen.
Yeah, they didn't realize running in sand is a lot tougher than. So for today we're going to talk a little bit about music. If you guys didn't get a chance to watch the show I did just ahead of this, I went through the top 200 most requested songs in the DJ Event Planner system. You can just go back on the YouTube channel. It would be the last live show we did. But I wanted to continue to talk about music a little bit tonight. Specifically, it kind of ties in a little bit of that and a little bit of bouncing back to the homecoming show that we did. We talked about music, specifically that there are songs that I went through that list tonight, and there are songs in there that I would consider a banger. Dan would look at it and wonder, and MJ would say, not going to play it unless my life depends on it, and then even maybe questioning it. That there are songs that don't fit everywhere, and I wanted to have that discussion because sometimes people are like, "Oh, that song is my go-to song, and it works everywhere. Everyone should be playing it." And I don't think people understand that that's not the way it works.
I want you to do a bottom 200 wedding song list. And I'd be curious to see what songs people were forced to play at a wedding, but for no reason. Why in the world did the bride and groom choose this song?
To a point, and I think that list that I just went through, there's getting to that second that bottom 100. Well, probably from about 25 on down. That I was mentioning, I only play it if it's requested. I only played it if I had to, because there are so many songs that are either have only significant meaning to the couple. But then we look at that list, and there's a million plus people who have requested through the system,
right?
Or through the a million plus requests have come through. So these songs have obviously been requested by a lot of people, which is a head scratcher for some of those songs. It's like, really, what were they thinking?
What always baffled me with them, was when occasionally, I haven't seen them in a while. They used to have the Do Not Play.
Mm-hmm.
That also I think came out with the same or about the same time, and I always got to laugh at the ones that were on both lists, and both of them like within like the top 10. So you'd have like the top 10 of the within the 200, and you have the top 10 of the Do Not Play, and it's like, okay,
yeah, that's interesting.
As an example,
I have.
The YMCA is one of those songs. It makes both lists. That the people who hit a lot of weddings are like, yeah, oh, that's so overplayed. I don't want to play it at my wedding. And yet at the wedding where, Bobby and Susie, they're maybe the first one in their group to get married. They've only been to a couple of weddings. They've seen, that people have had fun with it. And they want to have that experience of dancing with grandma. And, grandma's, in her 75-year-old, she can still get out there and she loves disco. And then the kids know it and they'll get out there. So you've got really two different distinct groups here that either love it or they hate it, and they're very passionate about it.
All right, so I have a disclaimer tonight. Is it disclaimer time?
Sure.
We did make it all the way 5 minutes in, 8 minutes in before the disclaimer, so we're doing pretty good.
Right, so my disclaimer, you guys, I think you're going to have fun with this tonight. I have a feeling that our biggest said phrase tonight is going to be, that depends. No matter what we're talking about, I think we're going to go, well, that depends. So I've decided, since that's a Ben Stowe statement.
That is.
Yeah. So tonight, if you think you hear me saying that depends instead of that depends, yes, you are hearing me say that depends. So there's my disclaimer. You're not hearing things when I say, well, that depends. There we go.
Okay.
There's my disclaimer.
So Johnny out there mentions that taking those crates from those, and DJ Ben Planner released theirs, and DJ Intelligence released theirs also. So if you use, most of the companies are now doing that as a yearly thing. Take those lists, and as Johnny mentions here, make a crate with those, because they break it down into the best of the 90s, the most requested songs from the 90s or 2000s. It's a great start if you have not gone and made some kind of, I'm having a brain fart for crates. This is a great way to get started. Get your feet wet a little bit, because then you're looking at the songs. You can see key and you can see the BPM, and you can kind of sort by things to try to make it a little bit easier to find a song when you've got that, oh my gosh, what am I going to play next? And I have 23 seconds left.
I also say sometimes it's worth, when you look through those types of lists, to go, you know what? I feel like breaking away and trying something. Like, for example, John, you said, I'd only really played that's requested, or can't remember the last time I played that. Might be worth just giving it a shot and say, you know what? Let's try one tonight. Let's throw one in and see the reaction. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe, maybe there's a reason why this is on the list that I just didn't think about. And might be in for a pleasant surprise. And I've done that once or twice. I try not to go too crazy, but, a little bit of like, oh man, you know what? It's probably been a while since I played that. Yeah, let's give it a shot. See, it's coming back for some reason. And more often than not, it actually turns out to be good. And then I end up using it more frequently than I probably would have otherwise.
Steve MCC there. Steve makes a great, this is one of the kind of points that he makes the statement. I'm going to read it here. YMCA is okay with an older couple's wedding, but not for the under 25 couples. That would be kind of the rule of thumb, you would think. But I've got a couple that we're going to be doing a wedding for this year that are 20 and 21. And this is going to be a highlight song for them, just for that reason I mentioned before, because they know that their family, they don't go to many weddings, their families. So this will be one of the, in some cases, this will be the only wedding they've been to in the last 2 or 3 years. And they are excited to be able to go out there and have a picture, everybody on the dance floor doing the YMCA, and you can we get a 360 camera in the middle of that and do this? So I think that we have our rule of thumb, but I think one of the big things when it comes to music in a situation is that whatever our rule of thumb is, sometimes it gets tossed out the window because every rule is meant to be broken or something. I've heard that said.
No.
Because it depends.
It does depend.
It does depend. Okay, so
this show now has 3 catchphrases. You do realize that now.
No, that one's not going to catch on.
Oh, I'm going to make it catch on.
I'm
going to pick another one this year.
This would be the year of catchphrases. That's what 2022 is. 22 catchphrases by the end of the year. There you go.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
By the end of the year. I think you can do it.
Still challenging.
We'll just be drinking water all day long.
John, talk about the chat.
So, okay. So let's kind of talk about regional.
Dance around Howie's post.
Oh, where's I have no idea what Howie's talking about. No idea. Although you guys, I don't know if you guys saw it or not this week. It was an incredible moment.
It was.
I mean, this is like the only thing that would be better is if Huey Lewis himself would come and like something that we did, like one of our posts or something. That would be. This is like right below that. MJ posted a little some teaser information on that new Pioneer controller. And, I made some kind of a smart remark about, wondering if it was Megaseg compatible. And, of course, Megaseg, the folks from Megaseg came in there and said, yes, John, if it's MIDI, it will work. So how cool is that MJ is working on his Megaseg sponsorship?
So the thing that I was most curious about was
his shiny bone. Like,
does the M company follow MJ and hence saw the post there?
I think just because John tagged him. Because I went back. That's the first thing I did is went back and say, did he tag Megaseg or are they following me? That was my first thing. And he did tag them.
Oh, he did. Okay, I missed that part.
Because I was gonna freak. I freaked out for like 30 seconds going. Oh my gosh.
Are they following me? Oh my God.
Anyways,
but he's got a reason why he doesn't use it. For those of you wondering, he understands it's a great product for the right situation, but he's not a Mac user, and you've got to be a Mac user. And for the right situation, I mean, it as they say, it's meant for. It's almost meant for like underground radio stations, is what it's really designed for.
I thought it was because every time he looked at the computer screen, he'd have to take a drink.
There is.
He'd see,
somebody IV me. Take an IV.
I gotta go potty again. No.
You don't need an IV, you need a catheter.
Need both in and out,
Yeah, fair enough.
Otherwise, I would be able to keep very, very, very busy. But we're diverting from music.
Yes, we are.
So,
which I'm fine with that because I don't think I have a lot to add tonight, but I'll add whatever I can add.
Well, let's just kind of start. There's some different genres, and specifically, I want to hit a couple of those. As I was going through that list, let's disco as an example. Is disco something that works well, kind of works, or doesn't work so much in the audiences you guys play to? Or does it depend? Ben?
That the dance.
The dance. Wait, what? We just took a left there.
I do drop disco from time to time, and there are some of them are remixes. I just heard one the other night at the casino when I was leaving. It was on the casino playlist, and it was a remix of
Tell me that you had to stop in Shazam, or you stopped in.
I Shazammed it, yeah, and then I took a snapshot of my Shazam. It was the GRN remix of Night Fever, and I thought I could pull this off a few places because it wasn't too far off the deep end, but yet it was still a little bit more modern. And I will occasionally try things like that. If you have a heavy girl crowd, you can sometimes, in my opinion, you can pull off I Will Survive.
Yeah.
There's just certain little things you can try there. I do not hold back on trying YMCA. I think people join in on that more than you think they do.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just one of those catchy things that people like to join in on. Dancing Queen's another one that like you almost can't. Some people don't consider that disco; they consider it rock. But that's another one that I will go to and won't hesitate on.
For my audiences, it seems to be very, very limited. And maybe this is my own prejudice against it. I'm not a big disco fan. There's some tracks that I'm like, okay, yeah, they got a good feel. It's got a good, good overall grab, and I'll throw it on. But a lot of your stuff that I would say somebody's that's more versed in disco. Not that they would say I'm deep diving, but that would be above your extreme mainstream ones would be a good grab. I won't even go near that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some of that's maybe my own, like I said, my own prejudice or whatever you want to call it, my own taste that kind of limit it. But I don't very often play much disco at all. And Dancing Queen's probably about the extent of it, to be honest with you, for quite a while now.
See, now I'll mix a little bit. I'll probably have 2 or 3 sets, and in a set would 2 or 3 songs, throughout the night that I would be doing. So it's not a ton. But I've had this conversation with Brian Red, and hey, between disco and funk and some Motown, those are 3 areas that disco is about all I'll touch. I really don't hit the others, and it's something that he works in. Now, I'm in Minnesota, he's in Wisconsin. He's on the east side there of Wisconsin and north of Chicago an hour, so maybe that has some influence of why they work better for him, specifically Motown coming out of Detroit. He's a lot closer to that origin than I. But it just, it's interesting how I can, Staying Alive, YMCA, getting into We Are Family, I Will Survive, Dancing Queen, and then you can generally find, Rick James. I've had that actually worked this year.
I think some of that is if your crowd likes some faster stuff, I think you could probably get away with that. A little thing hits or a Harry Styles, something that's a little bit more traditional in that sense. I think the disco is going to seem on another planet from them. At least that's where my division is. If the crowd's digging this, they probably won't dig this.
I will tend to go when it goes to some of that older stuff. And again, it kind of depends upon your crowd more so than the others.
Yeah, and funk just hasn't been
between disco and funk.
Yeah, and that
funk, but some people say that came from the disco era. Maybe,
Yeah, I'm not quite going to that more of the funk. I'm
Brick House from Commodores, Rick James Super Freak, Lowrider from War. So there's a few in there that I have played. Are they what I would consider my big bangers that I would really play without it being requested or without setting them up? Nah, not so much.
I'm going to bring up my list here and see what hits heavy on mine in the. So we're going to say disco. I have some early Michael Jacksons, YMCA, Dancing Queen. What else is in there? Party Train's in there, but I don't know. I don't play that very often. Let It Whip, I don't play that very often. And what would you say? The other one was funk. Gap Band, Outstanding. Now that one I play because I like it. I don't play it because anybody else likes it, because I love that song Outstanding by them. That's why that gets a lot of play.
And I think Dan was alluding to that, is that there's some personal taste that comes into why disco doesn't work. And I mentioned that in the first show, is that there are versions of songs that YMCA, there's a dozen versions of an album cut of that song. And if I am prompting the crowd and with our motions and I'm into it, and I can sell any version of the song, and people, even though they've never listened to that version, will be right there with me, and they won't have that little like, oh, that's a bridge that I didn't know was there, whatever. I think that's an important part of it, our personal taste, and to show excitement for what we're doing. So if Dan's not into disco, but he's into that more of a funkadelic type music, and he's showing excitement and he's showing how much fun he's having, that's going to rub off on people. My events, when I'm playing, these great bands from the San Francisco Bay Area, and the people are seeing how excited I am about playing the 7th song from that band in a row, they just can't help but having a great time, because not only is the music great, but they can see the energy.
Yeah, nobody's there, John. You're drinking too much again.
Yeah, energy. 7 bands.
No, so I was going back through. So as we were talking, so yeah, there's a lot of times, I think, one, it's how you're selling it. I think two, it's how you're setting it up. If you're not looking for the way that your songs go together, and this tied in somewhat to our mixing show. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? Last week. Okay. Knowing your music and knowing what should go together, and looking for ways to kind of put your journey of music together, if you will. If you're slamming, into a disco from something that's not going to appeal to the same crowd, that's not going to musically kind of blend or start a transition, I'm not saying it can't work. I'm just saying it doesn't work as often. And unless you're pulling it off just right, it probably doesn't work for you. And so, looking for the ways to put those things together is also going to make a huge difference to how something might work for you personally, as opposed to, what you could do with it.
Excellent. They're saying some buffering was happening. I haven't been seeing anything on my side.
Only in my brain.
Yeah, so I don't think we're having. It doesn't seem that we're having issues with that, but we'll keep an eye on it here. Of what I'm actually watching the YouTube one on the back, and I can see Dan and I moving, the heads moving back and forth. So, MJ, you're on the bottom of the screen. Unfortunately, you're covered on that. Sorry. Okay, so genres can vary. They can be more successful by area and also by DJ taste. I think that's kind of a big thing, which is actually kind of cool that that does play a role, because at times you feel that because everyone can get a hold of the same music these days, that everybody's playing the same songs. Each and oh yeah, well, we're going to start at the wedding with these 10 songs, and DJs over here are going to start the wedding with the same 10 songs, and those guys everyone's going to do the same thing because we all have the same music. So it's kind of refreshing to know that personal taste still can play a role in this.
I still remember.
That would be an interesting show, just to talk to different DJs, just walk around with a mic at the expo and say, how many times do you play a song at an event just because you like it? And just see what people say.
Oh, I think we got a nice chat room tonight. Let us know. Do you do this once a show? Never? Or is this something you do a couple of times throughout the night? You play a song because it's a favorite of yours, and because of that, the energy, they'll know the song, and because of my energy and excitement, they'll all be wanting a new drug in just a little bit of time. Let us know in the chat room if, do you see how I worked that in there? Slap that one in there.
Too bad it wasn't the song that they were talking about.
Yeah. Good at that. Go ahead, Dan.
He's getting a little slick with it. Yeah. No, I forget what I was going to say.
Just dazzling. Dazzling is what you are.
Wow. John has derailed us completely off the deep end with nothing more than the names of songs on the albums of Mr. Hubert Lewis.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Just wait till I pull out my bedazzler and you guys can see how great I make my jeans look. Okay.
I was going to say, never mind.
Yeah.
We are really getting sidetracked easy tonight.
That's okay.
So John, bring us back, please.
So yeah, so the genres definitely can vary. I want to talk about explicit music. Specifically, some areas I think are more conservative and it wouldn't go over. Some areas I think that if you would be playing the clean version of songs, that people would actually be offended in situations like that. And what have you guys experienced when it comes to explicit and the audience's desire for one or the other?
For me, it's easy because that's all I play is clean. If you want dirty, you have to hire someone else. It literally says on my website, 100% clean music. My motto is if I don't say it, I won't play it. So if it's in a song and it's something I wouldn't say in life, I'm not playing it. And for some people, they'd be like, well, then I don't have any songs to, because I say everything, but I'm on the opposite end. There's stuff that I play in songs that I would not say out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you do get the diversity. The casinos hire me because they know everything I play is clean because that's what they want there. I'm not sure why, but that's what they want is all clean music there. But I've done that giant college bar you guys seen the pictures at. Manager will say, "Oh, awesome job tonight. We only got complaints because you play clean music."
Yeah.
So you have. I think on something like that, you have to make your decision. What line you're willing to cross.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys feel?
Well, and I think in your situation, because you are upfront with that, with most of most of the people know that going in, that you're not going to have, they just accept it, and it's like this is the way it's going to be. I for a while I was promoting that and saying, yeah, this is what I do, and for my wedding audiences, that's what they're after, because most of my weddings that I do are family and are more conservative. I don't play bars in the area because in that standpoint, they wanted. Saturday night, I was in a bar actually, and there were people who were like, "No, this isn't." The request for "It Wasn't Me" from Shaggy is what they wanted, and it's like, well, okay, I do have the album version, and that's what we're going to play. Well, they didn't want that version; they wanted the non. They didn't want the radio version. That's what I played. They wanted the actual album version that had different language in it, and it's not the way it was going to happen. There are spots in Minnesota that if I'd be doing a wedding in those venues, I would have to be playing the explicit versions. I mean, I have to play what is what they hear, whether the country's got profanity or the rap's got profanity or rock's got it. They want to hear it. They want to hear Buck Cherry's that song from Buck Cherry that you guys all know what it is. They want to hear the lyrics of that, and they want to sing it. They refrain as loud as they possibly can with every word that they can. They're the ones that would be putting the moni moni, that little phrase in the moni moni, because that's what they do. In those situations, if I wouldn't, and I don't play those areas, but I mean, if I would play those areas and I wouldn't do those things, it would, I would be basically run out of the place. I don't know if that's everywhere.
I had to go look up that band you're talking about. I've never heard of that band before.
Which one?
Wow.
Buck Cherry. It's rock. And none of the places I have, they don't want, no rock, no rock, no countries, whatever.
Yeah, but this one, the song that he's talking about,
I just looked it up.
Yeah. It
had a kind of like a crossover, kind of like especially bar type of following there for a bit. When I'm very much like MJ in the fact that I'm sorry, I'm only going to play clean stuff. That's the way I roll. That's what I do. And for me, it's become not just a matter of who I am, but it's also the brand that I'm willing to push. I'm not going to cross that line, whether that language be used or not. I don't want it associated with my business. I run a very, one of the things I pride myself on is the professionalism that I run with. And to me, I don't feel that explicit lyrics and professionalism necessarily go hand in hand. And I know there are a lot of DJs who would argue with me about that, and to their business and how they run and where they're at, I think is a very different animal. I would also add, my in-laws are from an area in New York that, if you're not dropping F-bombs and everything else in normal conversation,
yes,
not out of anger, not out of spite, not out of anything other than this is just the way you talk, you kind of get a weird look. Mm-hmm. So
I have a few friends that if they eliminated swearing from their vocabulary, we would have really short conversations.
Exactly. And so in those instances, if something were to be there, I don't think an eye would be batted. I don't think anybody would even pick up on it. So I will say though, that where I noticed the clientele being more disappointed when it wasn't going to be explicit was actually when I was at a lower price point. And I don't, again, I'm not saying that that's the clientele who wants it. I'm just saying that when I was at a lower price point, I actually had a complaint from a bride because she wanted a Ludacris song. And I was like, I've got the clean one. And she was just like, I can't believe it. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, this is a mixed audience event. And I don't have it, and nor will I play it. And it was very hard for her to come to terms with that. And in fact, it was my only non 5-star review. Now, she didn't go into specific details, but it was, I forget, it was something along the lines of accommodating or something like that. And she had like she lowered my rating of what I was willing to do. But oh, well, if that's what it's for.
How would you have felt if she would have explained why? Do you think that would help or hurt your people reading that as like, oh, she gave him 4 stars because of a language thing? Do you think would that matter to anybody else, you think?
I don't think most people would take the time to actually look at it and read it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I from my own standpoint and my own, like, yeah, I stood my ground and I'm fine with this. Yeah, I would have loved for her to say, what the deal was, or to why she, she gave me that lower rating. But beyond that, like I said, I don't think majority of your couples are going to look, that deep into something. And especially at this point, I mean, this was probably, 15 years ago at this point.
But just to be upfront about the college one that I told you that you get the big one that has like 750 capacity that I spun at.
Mm-hmm.
I did tell them up front, are you sure you want me? I play clean music. Yeah, that's fine. We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So it that's why I asked that, because it could matter and it couldn't matter, where it could not matter now and then matter later, or not matter now and could. And I was just kind of curious what Dan thought about that with his. Yeah.
But I think that was the important conversation to have in advance, so you knew.
I always do, so that they don't know. It's like, if that's what you want, that's fine. I'm just not the guy you want to hire, and that's okay. There's plenty out there that will accommodate you. That's just not me. I'm okay.
And I know there's a lot of DJs who have that, on the mobile side, who have that conversation during planning. And maybe this is me. I don't bother with that conversation. Like I don't bring it up. I don't mention it. I do get worried about, some point down the road when I have a couple who's going to want something and going to want the explicit, and I'm going to have to, kind of stand my ground. But in the same respect, it's not something I really dive too much into. I kind of pride myself on the fact that a lot of my inquiries come from venues who talk about the party. And I think for a lot of couples, they would rather have a raging party of whatever sort over a party that had explicit lyrics and was okay. So if they have a couple that said, if they have a venue that says, listen, this is who we recommend because they throw a great event, it's not, well, does he play explicit music? Like, no, he throws a great event. That's okay. We're calling him up. That's sure. That's what we're going to be more concerned about.
Yeah. Jay had mentioned a little bit up there a little way. It's the Alice song, Living Next Door to Alice is, I think, the name of the song. And there's a line in there that is very well known in this area. This is a song that the people down the road would sing. And I've got a clean version of the song because the very first time it was played back in the 90s or whatever it was, somebody brought in a cassette that had it on, and I had no idea what it was, and I was young and naive, and it's like, sure, I'll play it for you. And it was the actual, if you search the lyrics, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Living Next Door to Alice, you'll see it. So after that, I found a clean version, or one that had it bleeped out, and that doesn't stop people from screaming it at the top of their lungs, but that has become a regional swear-along song that Jay knows of it, which is kind of surprising, but I think a lot of people have no idea because it's just a very, kind of a regional appeal song. Even I can go north of nowhere and they have no idea what it is.
I have a clean version of Mo Bamba, and if anybody knows that song, it breaks down and scream out loud these 4 swear words. And mine is the clean version, and no one can tell that I'm playing the clean version because everybody is screaming,
yelling as loud as it. Yeah.
You don't know.
I ran into some difficulty with the school because
I played. You were saying about this, yeah,
and then they came back later. Now they weren't mad at me,
right,
per se, but it definitely tightened the restrictions because of the screaming of the words. And I think for some of them, I think for especially your sing along ones that include some of that, I think it's one of the things where, and I could be wrong about this, that people and your clients and your customers are more apt to be fine with the radio version because they're going to sing whatever lyric they decide that they're going to sing.
Mm-hmm.
When WAP was popular, and and it was one of those, people were like, do you play it? Do you not? I had a wedding where it was a little, the kids had all left. It was definitely turning into a late night after party type of vibe. They come up and ask for it, and I'm like, I got the clean one. And they're like, yeah, all right, that's what you got. That's what we'll hear.
Yep.
And so I played, and sure enough, like, they were singing right along as if it was the normal lyrics. And so, I think a lot of them are like, yeah, I'll sing along. I'm not that worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you. Throw a curveball at you. Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk. Clean version still has the D word in it.
Not the squeaky clean.
Squeaky.
That's what I'm saying. So the radio version, that's the thing. I think I get questions from DJs so often, and I think they ask me because they know I play clean music. I can't tell you how often DJs ask me this. What if you're going to play a clean version? What do you consider? What's considered clean now? And I have to kind of. That's one of those it depends, sort of thing. Because each person, that might not be. Mm-hmm. A swear word to some people is only one word, the F word. That's it. Everything else is up for par. And then radio has certain things it allows, but certain songs, it's twisted in there where you can't even see. What's the band that did the song? Is it The Who that does Who Are You? Who? Is that them?
Yeah.
Okay. They say the F word in that song towards the end because they say who the F are you, but it's so tight in there you can't hear it. And they also say it in Jeremy's song from Pearl Jam. And it was played on the radio that way because he mumbles it such a way that you can't really tell. So, where do you draw? That's why I say you kind of have to make your own decision. Do you want to go along with? Do you want to, like Dan said, do you want to bring it up in the meeting ahead of time? Do you want to have a steadfast rule? Do you want to have a rule that bends? How do you want to do that? Do you want to have both sorts of music? And are you that good at marking them so they're clean and dirty? Because I know a guy who lost his job at one of the casinos because he thought he had a clean version, played the dirty version. Ooh. One song, let it slip through, got fired.
But
yeah, I don't carry both for almost that exact reason.
Yeah.
I used to carry both on the hard drive. I don't think I ever made the slip up, although I remember grabbing one time and going, uh-oh. And it was during the queuing that I was like listening and mixing. I'm like, oh, wait, something doesn't quite sound right here. My hard fast rule is radio version. I'm not going to go edit a song beyond that. If I have a squeaky clean that comes through, then I'm going to lean more towards that one. But I'm not going to run out and try and find it just because it has what I'll consider a more minor swear word. So, my thought is if it can go through on radio and become a mainstream popular song, it's got some leeway. I'm not going to go grab Meredith Brooks and throw it on, even though it had a lot of radio play. But, in the same respect, it's, otherwise, then you got to have some professional judgment there too. If you don't know the song, MJ, it's from the 90s.
Yeah, back when you were a kid.
He sang one song, the only song she ever had that I knew was ever released.
Yeah. And
I still remember working in radio and they said, you may name the artist, you may not name the song. And they're like, she says it throughout the whole song. You may name the artist, but you may not name the song.
Oh, when that came out and kids were asking for that at schools, it's like, we can't play that here. Oh, but you got to. It's a great song. We all love it. And I can't play that here. And you're the football team. Why do you want to hear? Just throw that in there. It's my football season joke there. For those of you wondering, we've been I think I blocked 7 or 8 porn spam or scammers or whatever tonight on the thing. So yeah, we've been having with both shows tonight, coming in on the different ones. So
I'm hoping those are bots, because if you're a human being spending this much time for that kind of stuff,
yeah, it's got to be bots. Yeah,
do something with your life. Seriously, I'm looking you in the eye right now. Whoever you are, come on now.
Yeah, you're talking to a computer.
We're talking about being clean, and they're dropping others.
Yeah, they're dropping.
I'm like, seriously, do something with your life. I'm not saying I ain't judging you on nothing, but I'm saying if this is what your time is spent doing, spamming live shows, get a freak. I don't care if you're spamming us on there going, hi, everybody, every 2 minutes. Get a freaking life.
Well, there was that person too, but we left that.
It's like some people, like
I know the same people who like human.
I want to slap your parents for giving birth to such a horrible human being. You know,
if my hand would get sore. Okay, the last part I wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
we talked a little bit about clean and unclean, or that. Well, let's leave that alone now. Let's talk about basically the difference. Are there spots where radio edits work better, and spots where a variation of a remix or a redrum is almost accepted more or even mandatory?
I am going to say that's a depends thing.
Depends.
Because I know I've stood in crowds before where I've played a redrum, not a remix, a redrum. And some people go, I love this version. Where'd you get it? And the person standing right next to him going, you ruined this song for me. So that's, I don't even know if that would be a regional thing, because like I said, I've had people side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've seen, stood next to a DJ and I drop a redrum and he's like, I hate this. Why are you doing this? And then I just point at the crowd that's going bananas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so I don't even know. How would you guys answer that? What do you think?
I've tried to drop some mixes and using, like at high schools, when using some of the quick edits and different things such as that, and utilizing those with varied success. Even when Michael was putting together his sets before he would go do some shows, he was using more album cuts than I think than you would, MJ, when you're doing your sets. And I think part of that is because, well, the kids are experiencing more music from different sources and things. I think there's just still a level of certainly over 25 years old, the album version of the song is what they hear on the radio at work or in their cars they're driving. They're hearing it off Sirius, or whatever they're using for stations. I think there's a lot of that going on. Now that we can do streaming, all sorts of things, we're not streaming remixes. We're streaming album cuts in a genre that we want to listen to. So I think that depending upon the location, rural locations, you might be doing more of the album type versions.
See, the whole radio thing is throwing me off, John, because that maybe would be a thing to look at right there, because I don't know people under 30 that listen to a radio station. Nobody listens to it. It's all streamed, whether it's free streaming through YouTube or one of the services.
But even Sirius has their. And they would have.
I don't consider that a streaming service. I consider that an over-the-air thing.
Yeah,
it's a radio station to me, so that fits into radio versus streaming.
But see, iHeartRadio is one of the big. Spotify, yes, there's mix shows and there's mix playlists on there, but some of the most popular ones are not. They're just a list put together of album edits.
I could show you lists galore.
Oh, there. I'm not saying they're not there.
No. What I'm saying is that that would be a tough thing to kind of measure out, because I see both. Mm-hmm. And I would love to do a show one night where we are on Twitch where we could play the songs and you play the album version and I play you my redrum, and you're going to go, well, that's not a redrum. It just has an intro. And I'll be like, but that same drum continues all the way through, but it's so subtle.
Yeah.
You don't notice it. And that's when I talk about a redrum, to where you can have an older song that has just enough to make it palatable in a room full of continuous energy over speakers that push bass. So I've had some where all they did was tweak the bass in the song to work better over a loud system. And that's what you kind of have to look for. You're not just going, I want to find a remix. Whatever says remix, I'm going to download it. Mm-hmm. You might have to listen to 10 or 12 of them before you find the one that fits what you're doing. And that's why I say that I don't think you should have stuff just download whatever shoved in your face. Like, here's this month's stuff. That's idiotic. Pardon me. I had someone yell at me for saying idiotic on a previous show. I apologize.
No.
I definitely think there are certain tracks that a remixed version has become popular, but I do agree with what you're saying, John. When you look at what are the most popular playlists, or what are the playlists that are getting the most follows, that are getting the most likes, that are, shares and that kind of thing, it oftentimes is made up of those album versions. But
are the people who are listening to that the people that would go out to an event? Because I think there's a big difference between people who go out to events, whether it be a birthday party, anything, as opposed to people who don't go out to events. Because I have friends that don't understand, like, how do you make a living at DJing at bars? Why does nobody goes there? So there are people that just don't go out. Mm-hmm. So those people who are listening to that, you have to look at, it goes back to that. It depends on your audience. At a wedding, how much of that audience goes out more often than just weddings? Because again, I have friends, and you guys are both married. You can tell me how far off it is. I have friends that say that the only time they go on dates with their wives is a wedding or a funeral.
So let me put it this way. One of the things that I've incorporated with my planning process, and I'm very lucky in the fact that DJ Event Planner has the ability to connect with their Spotify system. And so I have couples both that have utilized that, but that have also just shared me a link of things that they like, the things that they want to hear, basically their request list. Mm-hmm. And I would say that rarely in that do I get any version of a song other than the regular album cut. Again, occasionally there is one that's thrown in, but not terribly. These are couples that are not fresh out of college, but they are also not couples that have been married for 5-10 years and only going out to weddings and funerals. So these are couples that I would view go out occasionally for a night on the town.
So what portion of them would be okay with a redrum that has an intro and an outro?
See, the
mixed.
Okay. How many of them would be okay? I think almost all of them would be okay with a redrum. The question wasn't, are they okay, but are there certain things where it becomes more mandatory to have that versus the album? And again, I would go a little bit more on the remix side of it that John was referring to than the redrum, because I think a well done redrum, and you and MJ and I think we're both on the same wavelength, that a well done redrum is one that has just enough subtlety to it to keep that feel and that beat going and not deviate to the point that you go.
Structure of the song.
Exactly. So a well done redrum is one that, to be honest with you, is almost unnoticeable that it's a redrum. All right. So I think from a playing standpoint, a redrum is going to be much more useful and much more appealing than the album version. But I would not consider that in the necessary to the client side, because they would in John's original question, I think we're focusing more on the remix. A remix version being more mandatory to play.
Oh, I was seeing it more of as what can be accepted. Like I agree with you that the people would ask for the album version 100 times out of 100, but I would say probably 75 out of 100 you could play a redrum and they wouldn't even really know. They would just say, "Oh, you mixed that really well." Yeah,
a well done redrum is
just because there was an intro. Yeah. And that's what I get. I talk about the stuff I download. I'm not downloading some techno thing that breaks, which I do get twerk mixes and stuff like that. But a lot of stuff I have is just intros, outros that just makes it really, really mixable.
And most of the time I'm using an intro version, whether I start it with at the beginning of the intro or whether I'm, pick my cue point to slam into at the start of things as if it was an album cut.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of times that's where I go. And this is kind of, I struggle sometimes with my mixing. Sometimes if I start with an album cut, it's hard to kind of mix in depending upon how it's going. So I'll mix to get my beats and my speeds and my feel right with the intro. And then I'll start it though at the cue points because I know at the speed's right, even though I didn't use it for the song.
Yeah. There's times where I needed an intro for something where I played the redrum intro, went and grabbed the album version, and right when it got to that point, so I had the redrum coming in with the music or something, grabbed the point and dropped the album cut because I couldn't bring the album cut in the way I wanted to. So I used the redrum as a transition to go over to it. So you can do weird things. Most people would not spend the effort to do that. I would. I just press play. That's good enough. So I don't know. It's a tough call. And that would be, like you said on the title about regional. I just think it depends on people because you can have pockets that do things.
Yeah.
But again, like with you guys with the weddings, you have a much more diverse audience, especially you're just talking just age-wise, than I ever see.
But I would also think in some aspects, that's maybe where the regional would come into play a little bit more.
Okay.
For example, the things that work in upper Minnesota are not something that the weddings that I have are going to appeal, despite the fact that the age ranges are the same.
Yeah, his high school playlist proved that.
Yeah, well, that was another story. But yeah. even talking about the ones that have a more broad audience, and where they're getting their music, how they're getting their music, obviously is going to make an impact. And in the light of streaming with social media shares and that kind of thing, can also make a huge impact and what a group finds appealing.
And I think that whole concept of pockets that MJ was talking about, I think that
it goes back to our mixing show when I said it depends on the audience that's in front of you. Mm-hmm. That you really have to read that audience, because I could go in there with my remixes and 3 songs in realize this ain't working. And as a good DJ, I better be able to switch up and do what I need to do. And if it's the album versions or whatever, that's what a good DJ does. Or if they play the album version and they see it just doesn't catch, try a remix or try a redrum. And if that doesn't work, you can always go back, but be willing to try some things.
What's nice about the mobile side is with the bar dance floor, with the club aspect, you don't have the following. And I'm not saying like as a wedding DJ we have a following per se, but your clients don't go to that bar per se, because MJ's there. At one point that was kind of the big deal. Like you were the draw, and that's the idea behind it. And you've kind of alluded that idea has kind of gone by the wayside a little bit. But with the wedding, oftentimes we're hired, like we're brought in by the couple based upon what they know about us and what they've researched or what they've been told about us. So that kind of, I would say almost it helps if your brand is set up in such a way that they know what they're going to get. Yes, there's still those couple pieces, but it's not going to be quite as diverse as, man, I'm going to this bar tonight, I'm going to try these remixes and it might flop.
Right.
If you're known for playing remixes, chances are they're going to have a lot more success for you because of that.
Yeah.
Where you're getting hired.
You're looked at as certain things are expected when you're hired. Yeah. So if you have a certain feel, a certain sound, a certain something, they hired you because that, and you have to kind of stick with that. You're saying, kind of. Yeah. You
don't have to stick with it, but you can know going in a little bit with a little more confidence what's going to be desired.
Good. That's how long do you think that takes a DJ to learn what their sound is that for an audience? Do you think that's something you can pick up on quick, or does it take time for the wedding?
I think it takes a little time, because I think initially you have to learn who you are. Mm-hmm. You have to learn how you're going to come about, and you have to learn what's going to be what you're known for. So I think there is a little bit of time with that, but I don't think it's something you have to be in the business for 10, 15 years before that comes out. I think by your 3rd year, if you go in with the right attitude and the right process and the right attack, by your 3rd year, I think, maybe that's being a little aggressive, but I think you can be known for that and have the right following with that.
Well, I think you're pretty close there, Dan. We'll have to wrap up in just a second, but the greatest album ever was released in 1983, and I did my first show in 1985, and I knew I was right there with that first album. It was incredible. The people danced, they banging off the walls, flying from the rafters, the whole 10 yards. It's great. It was great.
He didn't even say it. We're drinking.
We got to go.
Did you see that subliminally? He got us to drink. He didn't even say it, and we were drinking.
So up next in the chill room, DJNTV.com/chill. That's where Howie and the crew are going to be tonight. They do a recording on Monday nights. Starts at 10 o'clock Eastern. So you go in there, keep your camera off, keep your microphone off, and they're going to have their topic. They record for about 20 minutes or so. Then they'll wrap that recording session up, and then you guys can jump in and talk about the topic some more and talk about life or whatever else is coming through. Yeah, see, Brian knows what I'm talking about. He knows what I'm talking about. And you guys can have a good time with that tonight. Tomorrow night, we're going to be putting one of the Howie shows will go up, I think, tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern. And then Brian and Jay and Howie do their Tuesday night music show in the chill room, djntv.com/chill. So you can go back out there and have some fun with them tomorrow night again also. So I think that we need... MJ, what do you got?
Keep an eye out. I may do a show Thursday night. If certain equipment comes out, I would like to do a show and talk about the new equipment that's supposed to come out on Thursday.
Oh, there we go. We have a date. I hadn't known there was a date.
And I think it'll be a good night to kind of sit and talk through things about it, because I think there's going to be stuff that needs to be explained. And I think it'll be fun to sit. So if it does come out on Thursday, like they said, look for that Thursday night then.
Sounds good. Excellent. Dan, take us home.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your night to come and join us. What you learned tonight, it depends. That's all we can say on that. So I hope you have yourselves a wonderful rest of the night, a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Good, everybody.